And we welcome you into Dodger Poke Report, where tonight we have a very, very, very special guest, the play-by-play broadcast announcer for the Oklahoma City Dodgers, who are just about 23 hours away from saddling back up and getting things started. So, Alex Freedman, I wanted to welcome you into Dodger Poke Report, and thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. My pleasure.
All right, man. You grew up in St. Louis, proud St. Louis native. Went to college in Chicago at Northwestern. So, how did that work out for you? You know, that's a huge rivalry between St. Louis and Chicago. Went to Northwestern. So, how did that work out for you?
Well, let me preface my answer by saying the way I felt then is not the way I feel now. When you have a career in pro baseball, your idea of fandom changes quite a bit. So, but back then, yeah, it was being in hostile territory, and those were some good Cubs years in the mid 2000s as well. So. I was in college when the infamous Steve Bartman game happened. Yeah, it was at the time. Yeah, I did not care to be around a bunch of Cub fans, but again, that's not how I feel these days.
You've been with Oklahoma City through two different organizations now. We were Houston there for a while. You've been here since 2012. So just talk about the Dodgers, how first class they are, the way they do things, and how neat it's been for you to be a Dodger.
Yeah, I mean the Dodgers were definitely ahead of the curve. I feel with the way they've done a lot of things in player development. That's not to speak any ill of the Astros or anything like that. You know, my first three seasons here, I think just in general the advances in the game and technology have grown by leaps and bounds. But there was definitely a difference when things shifted from the Astros to the Dodgers to the type of players they were looking to bring in because the organizations were in two completely different spots at that time in terms of their big league level success. So it went from a very young AAA roster, usually in the Houston years, to a more veteran and older AAA roster at the start of the Dodgers years. The Dodgers, at least from the start back in 2015, the first season they were here, you know, they were providing not only two meals a day for all their players, but, you know, making sure that the ingredients were organic, the meats were free range. Now, a lot of other organizations do that as well, but the Dodgers were really the first to do stuff like that. One of the first to add a video coordinator slash analytics person on the minor league coaching staffs, at least in AAA. Now they have them really throughout the entire organization. But back there, back in again 2015, the first year, that was the exception more than the rule. All the AAA teams now have a position like that. So, yeah, there was definitely a big difference, and you know they have that term Dodger pride, and there really is something I think a bit different being a Dodger than being as part of a lot of different organizations.
Talking about being a Dodger, I wanted to back up just a little bit. Joe Davis just got announced that he's going to be on the World Series team, so that's exciting, isn't it?
It is, and you know he is tremendous at what he does on air. But you know, I've been fortunate to have a bit of a personal relationship with him, and I know it's cliche, but he's just as good as person off the air as well. And sometimes when I send him text, I try not to bother him too much, but one of which was when he filled in for Joe Buck in that game 7 of the NLCS between the Dodgers and the Braves. And just it was obviously a highly dramatic game, and he did a great job. And texted him a day or two later, to just be like, hey, I know you're getting blown up right now, but I think you did a great job. And his reply is like, well, coming from you, that means a lot. And it really shouldn't coming from me, but it comes off genuine when he says stuff like that, and I believe him. And he's done some stuff. He did a program with me that benefited our foundation during the pandemic as well. So. Yeah, just a great super guy, and very happy for him.
He reminds me of you in a lot of ways, in the sense that, he does many different sports. He does college football, he does basketball, he does obviously baseball, like you do. And every time he does a game, you feel like he's known all of your players their whole lives. I mean, he knows everything about everybody.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. I think it should be reversed, though, to say that maybe I remind you of him, not that he reminds you of me. So, but thank you. Yeah, the preparation that goes into every broadcast to me is paramount, and you never, if you're doing your job, you're never going to use everything that you prepare. If you
Hmm.
do, then you're in trouble. So does it maybe take longer than it needs to be? Yes, but that's how I'm going to feel most comfortable.
Yeah, about 23 hours away from saddling back up. This is an exciting year. Just a loaded roster. I know Ryan Pepio was announced as the opening night starter. Andre Jackson will get the ball game too. So very exciting to get started, isn't it?
It is. And I think the most exciting thing is we're kind of getting back to normal. It's
Yeah.
not 100% yet, but it really does have the feel of kind of business as usual for the first time since 2019. So that's been such a welcome change. And just for someone like me to be able to be around the players and the coaches and in the clubhouse as regularly as it's necessary has been great. I mean, last year, first 2 months of the season, you couldn't do any of that.
Yeah.
And even though I was fully vaccinated at the time, it didn't matter. And it made my job a lot harder to do, and it made everyone's job a lot harder to do. And that includes the guys who were in that clubhouse. So I think everyone's relieved. Hopefully, it stays like that and things continue to trend in a good way. So that's been kind of the most exciting thing. It's also weird to think we haven't played a game in the
Yeah.
month of April since 2019. You piggyback that off the fact
Oh,
that
that's right. I
the
didn't realize
season
that.
went all the way until October last year, the longest the season has ever gone. So it was a pretty short off season, and it certainly feels like it.
You're in a cool spot because you get to talk to a lot of guys. Either they're coming back from the major leagues and working on some skills that they've come back to maybe get better at, or you're talking to guys who haven't quite made it yet that become stars eventually in the future. So you get to know a lot of different guys in those situations, don't you? I bet that's neat.
Yeah, it is. And when you work a job like this, I say you become a fan of people more so than
Yeah.
teams. Guys you're able to establish relationships with, and if they go on to other organizations or are able to have success, that's always cool. I think for me, I think it's maybe something a little bit more special for, say, like my mom than it is me, because when you meet these guys, you realize they're just people like you and I. But my mom would be like, "Oh, well, Alex, I can't believe like you know that guy who's on TV right now, that you could like go up to him, he would know who you are."
Yeah.
But to me, it's when you've been doing this as long as I have, it's not a big deal.
Let's get to 2022. I know there's been some renovations to the wonderful Bricktown Ballpark. I have been there so many times. It is still to this day my favorite ballpark of all time. When they put it together in 1997, they did just such a wonderful job with it, and I just love going to that place every time I get to go. But I know they added some patio areas where people can rent, and some areas where the fan entertainment is going to be increased this year. So talk about some of the changes just to the stadium for the fan experiments.
Well, one of the biggest trends in sports business really over the last 10, 15 years has been the additions of the group in hospitality spaces, not just at baseball stadiums, really in all sporting venues. And the ones that get built new, they get built with a lot more of them than they
Mm-hmm.
were built with 20 years ago. And the ones that were built before that, like here at Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark, you find ways to do some renovations to be able to accommodate them. So one of those this year is what's called the party porch. It's a little bit up the third base line, and it can accommodate a couple different groups. It's kind of sealed off in its own section, has its own big kind of blue entrance off the concourse. We have something similar on the first base
Yeah.
side as well, called the baseline patio. So there was a lot of success with that. So able to replicate that on the opposite side of the seating bowl. We also have kind of this area called mini suites,
Yeah.
called Champions Club and Champions Lounges, that we built some more. Those are branded as the 405 Club. So yeah, that's been two of the big projects in terms of kind of the seating area. But other big things that have happened, one of which that I got to show off to some people today, were some pretty big fans, huge fans that have been put on the concourse in areas where when the weather gets really hot, the air just kind of tends to stand still and doesn't move a whole lot. So that's going to be a big bonus for fans who are attending games there in the summer months. And technology-wise, continuing to use the best technology available to improve the fan experience. So everything's pretty much digital these days, and there are a lot of people who are resistant to that. But once you come around to it, you realize it'll make things a lot easier. So we are going cashless this year, just like the Paycom Center has just down the street from us, beginning with the Thunder season that began last October. So with that, you have less people necessarily who have to work registers, but you still have the same amount of employees. Now they're just on the fulfillment side, at those concession stands and stuff like that. So your food will get out a lot quicker. And if you say you don't have a traditional bank account, you don't have a credit or debit card, you can go to our ticket office. You can exchange cash for what are called Dodger dollars. There's no fee for that. It's just a straight one-to-one exchange. So if you are just a cash only person, we do have ways to accommodate that as well.
In a Cliff Notes version, can you tell us what it means for Oklahoma City as they changed ownership this year?
Well, I think becoming such a big part of an organization, Diamond Baseball Holdings, which includes 10 teams under the umbrella of Endeavor, which is a global marketing and entertainment agency, it just gives us a lot of different resources. I think that's part of it. And a group of 10 teams that our team leadership can really bounce ideas off of. I know from the Diamond Baseball Holdings side, it's attractive for them because they can go to potential sponsors or whatnot to be able to offer a package with 10 teams or so. Really, the way a big also impetus for the change is the restructuring in the minor leagues. Major league organizations used to want to own their minor league organization so they could have stability there. And that's a big reason why the Dodgers ended up in Oklahoma City, starting back in the fall in 2014 when they purchased an ownership stake in the team. But now that you're locked into 10-year contracts, you don't need that ownership to maintain the stability. So that opened the door. And, Diamond Baseball Holdings were very strategic with who they went after and wanted to add to their portfolio. It's the affiliates of the big names, the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Cardinals, the Braves, the Giants, that tend to be in bigger markets as well. So again, just having a lot of people who are in your corner that again, with a lot of different resources, I know is something that our ownership is I should say our management is taking advantage of the start and will continue to do so in the future.
I believe the former contracts used to be every 2 years. You renew for 2 years.
It was indeed, unless you were owned, but you had to be owned exclusively by the major organization. So Los Angeles Dodgers only had a 50% ownership stake. So even though they did, we still had to technically sign 2-year contracts.
Yeah, but Oklahoma City is signed through 2030, the way I understand it. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. The way that the system changed beginning with last season, that all affiliates, whether it's AAA all the way down to single A, they are locked in for 10 years, starting with that 2021 season. So like you said, through 2030.
That is very exciting because obviously being the Dodgers, that is a awesome deal for Oklahoma City. Last question for me. I know there's $2 Tuesdays, fireworks nights. Any promotions you want to get out there?
Yeah, this Sunday, or I should say every Sunday after the games, whether it's a Sunday day game or a Sunday night game, kids are able to run the bases once the game is over. Every Friday we've got fireworks. We've got some great outside entertainment acts coming throughout the year, which I don't necessarily have the dates off the top of my head, but we're going to have Tyler's Amazing Balancing Act this Friday. The guy who will balance bikes and ladders on his chin, in between innings on top of the dugout and stuff like that. So that'll be neat to see. We're going to have Revel, the speed painter, coming back. This guy, what he does is just unbelievable. When I say unbelievable, I mean, it truly is unbelievable what he is able to do. For those who aren't aware, he basically paints full paintings with his hands upside down in about 2 minutes. And we were fortunate to win a Golden Bobblehead Award for the best in-game promotion from minor league baseball as a result of that. So he'll be back this year, and looking forward to see him again. We've got Scout Night coming up this Saturday more in the near future. We're able to bring back our future Dodgers nights, where we're able to partner with a bunch of local youth leagues, which includes a parade before the
Very
game.
nice,
That was
yeah.
something we weren't able to do last year because of the health and safety protocols with having those kids on the field. So best way to get all that information is go to okcdodgers.com.
Awesome, Alex. I appreciate you joining me. You do a wonderful job. I'm a huge Oklahoma City Dodgers fan, and I listen to you on 1340. Then obviously on the MILB app, I watch a lot of the games. So hey, I want to thank you so much for coming into Dodger Poke Report this evening.
Absolutely, Casey. Yeah, anytime, and look forward to seeing you at the ballpark.